What's up, guys? We are Meta Money and we are here with Ben, and today we are talking about the metaverse. And is it just a giant centralization trap, or can it actually be decentralized? What do you guys think?
Yay! Come on, like on a serious note though, I mean, if you think about Web 3.0, if you think about, the metaverse and how all these things are being built, there's not a chance in hell that any of it will be truly decentralized.
Well, I mean, you get to the point of what is true decentralization. Vitalik Buterin, I refer to this a lot. 2019, he put out a Medium post, something similar to a Medium post. It might not have been actually on Medium, but it was explaining there's no such thing as decentralization. It does not exist. Centralization and decentralization are a continuum. Decentralized on the left-hand side, centralization on the right-hand side. And every single project out there, every single company out there is going to fall somewhere on that continuum, but it's never going to be truly decentralized. It's never going to be truly centralized.
I mean, like Bitcoin is the only thing, right?
No, Bitcoin is not truly decentralized because did a man have to write it? Didn't someone have to come up with the idea?
No, that's a good
Didn't
point.
someone have to create the mechanisms at which the mining occurs? And didn't that same person mine the first 600,000 to 1 million Bitcoin to himself? So that's right, I am Satoshi. So the point is, didn't someone have to create the logo? That guy who created the logo, his name was actually BitBoy, which is funny. Some people ask me if I'm that, it wasn't me, but so the point is, even Bitcoin, and you can talk about the centralization or decentralization of addresses and wallets. Like, what percentage do the top wallets of Bitcoin hold?
Sure.
A gigantic amount. When you look at the hash rate can become centralized. We had it at one point where over 50% of the hash rate was being mined in one country. So when you really start bringing that down, you start understanding, like, let's Uniswap, for instance. Uniswap is a truly decentralized exchange, right? But Uniswap Labs is behind it, a centralized
They have the
company.
logo, it's on AWS.
Somebody's got to come up with the idea. Someone's got to create the domain name service. Someone owns the actual address that it's created under. So on some level, you're always going to have centralization involved. The question is, are we going to have metaverses that are open and people feel like they're decentralized, or are we going to more lean towards the metaverse, which is going to be completely centralized? It's going to have the equivalent of V-Bucks called Zuckbucks, and then it's not going to be an open system. People are not going to be able to take their items outside of it. Right. That defeats the entire purpose of the metaverse.
Yeah, I mean,
So Facebook's been in the news for years.
Will we ever call it Meta?
No.
I won't.
Well, because when you talk about it in the past, like that's what it was. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, it's been like stealing people's data, using their data, or just monetizing it, whatever. And people don't like that, but are they still going to end up choosing Meta over one of these other smaller crypto metaverses, just more decentralized? Maybe they'll have DAOs and stuff like that. What is the mainstream, people going to pick?
Yeah, well, I think the boomers aren't going to be in the metaverse. No. This is the key. The boomers are not moving to the metaverse. No. I'll take my stepdad, for instance. He's definitely a boomer, fits in that category. They just got an Oculus. And so I had to show him how to use it and everything. Why did he get the Oculus? Did he get the Oculus because he wants to play Beat Saber? Did he get the Oculus because he wants to jump into the metaverse and be immersed in a 3D world? No, he got it to train for golf. He got it for golf trainer. It's got, an extension. It's an attachment. And that makes sense for them. Like, for people that are of that age group, like, they want to get in and they want to experience some of the things that it has to offer. But he's not interested in an interoperable, metaverse world. But those aren't the people that are going to be using the metaverse, right? They're getting it for a specific reason. They're not getting it because they want to become gamers. The people that are going to want to be involved in this are a younger generation, and these are the harder people that Facebook, the most difficult area for Facebook to reach. They had there was a report put out, I believe, by the Wall Street Journal that showed that Facebook was having internal memos and emails going back and forth where they were trying to figure out how to leverage play dates within Facebook groups to try to bring 11 and 12-year-olds into the world of Facebook.
Interesting.
That's what they want. They're aiming for that generation, but there's such a big disconnect because why? All their parents are on Facebook and they think it's lame.
So back to something you mentioned. You mentioned DAOs. DAOs, I think, 2022, maybe spilling into 2023, has been called the year of the DAO. I'm not really sure I'm convinced. I mean, there's the whole meme and the joke about it's like, hey, let's form a DAO. And then someone says, all right, but before we form a DAO, what are we going to do? And then it's like, well, let's just come up with a list of options. And then someone says, well, if we're going to make a list of options, I need to know what the options are before I even say if I want to vote into this. So like, do you think DAOs are even going to have a place in any of this Web 3.0 stuff?
Well, absolutely, they will. But they are very early now. I don't know if you guys even know. I'm actually an advisor for Buy the Broncos, which is where they are trying to buy the Denver Broncos via a DAO, and they're very serious about it. It was started by some Denver Bronco fans who want to play the back seat. They don't want to be in the front of this movement. They're working to try to get the NFL to basically agree to take their bid seriously. The interesting thing about the Buy the Broncos situation is the Broncos are being sold via an estate sale because their owner died. They're not being sold by the NFL technically. So while the NFL does have some say-so over it, technically, since it is an estate sale, they're obligated to sell it to the highest bidder.
Is this the first time in history something like that's ever happened?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. A DAO trying to buy a sports team, absolutely.
Or even an estate sale selling a professional sports team.
I'm sure that has probably happened before. I can't think of a specific example, but I'm sure that has happened before. You have an owner that dies unexpectedly without a true succession plan for that, or the family wants to sell it. That's what's going on here. So I think the Buy the Broncos DAO is very interesting, and they have put this idea together very fluidly. The question is not are DAOs serviceable in 2022, not are they good ideas. The question is, are they being taken seriously at this point?
And could they ever be truly decentralized?
Right. Well, once again, the issue of, somebody's got to create the DAO, but a DAO actually is a more sustainable, decentralized model than a crypto project. Yeah. Because the idea of a DAO is to create and pass off. Like you're not creating it in a way that's truly decentralized. You're creating the idea of the decentralized entity, and then over time you push it to that decentralized model. So, but once again, somebody still has to come up with ideas. So we are dealing with some of those same issues. But the idea there is, that the individual holders of, it's actually NFTs, possibly the idea here, the holder of the NFTs would be able to get, like, let's say the Broncos become a super profitable franchise, to earn dividends and rewards based on the ownership stake. And it's very interesting. I think it's something that has really fascinated me. The question is the world ready for it? Is the NFL ready for it? It's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. And I don't think that we're quite there yet. I'm not saying the Buy the Broncos won't work, but just in general with DAOs, we're not there yet. 2022 is the year that the idea of the DAO was defined.
Yeah, okay.
It's not the year that the DAOs are truly going to take off and everybody's going to be using them.
Well, we see that even with the Metaverse. Like, the Metaverse is the big buzzword now, but we're not going to have a true Metaverse at least 5 years from now.
Well, Sandbox.
Yeah, but again, we've
Sandbox
had
by next year will be out.
Yeah, but we've had this conversation before. Like, me personally, Sandbox is the number one. They're the farthest along, but I hate voxels. Like, I don't like that style. I will never really truly enjoy I will use it and it will be a function of our business.
Yeah.
But to me, it's more of the hyper realistic ones. That's where I'll find myself like, if this is what I'm going to do, if I'm going to get into this style, it has to be that. It has to be more realistic.
Yeah, but I don't think the adoption is dependent on what you like.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's just a personal.
I think if you look at Minecraft and you look at Roblox, they're gigantically successful with the generation they're trying to reach. So I do think that Sandbox is good. The question is, when will we see interoperable metaverses? That we're more 4 or 5 years.
That's a true definition of the metaverse, though, is interoperability. But on the DAO thing, I think there's several small communities that are going to be love DAOs. And they're like, honestly, the more sophisticated person, I think, are going to be involved in DAOs, and those will exist. But like the mainstream people that want this metaverse experience, they're going to go after the biggest dangling carrot in front of them. And what is that play to earn? Or come into our metaverse, maybe it's Meta. Come into our metaverse and you'll earn these tokens. You'll earn this just by playing, just by being in there. Yeah. So incentivize. The mainstream people are going to go where they're most incentivized.
But the incentivization of Meta is very low because you can't take those Zuck bucks off of the platform.
Right.
You're earning in a closed system.
Right.
So that's not fun. That's the same system we already have in video games with Fortnite right now. So the incentivization is extremely low with a closed system. Whereas if I can earn and I can turn that into cash, or I can turn that into a crypto that I can turn into cash, well, now we're talking about serious integration and serious usability. I think you get back to the issue that I raised earlier, though, with all this, which is, why would someone want to go into a closed system when they can't take things off? And at the same time, when you think about all these different other metaverses that are operating, think of the demographic, think of the age group. That's the low dangling carrot for boomers. That's the low dangling carrot for people in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
People in their teenage years and their 20s, Facebook is not a low dangling carrot. They don't care to use it. It's actually would have to be work for them to go sign up for an account and start using that. Then when you tie that with the incentivization, I think it's going to be the biggest flop in the history. I think Facebook is on the way to becoming the next MySpace.
I can't wait.
Interesting.
And speaking of can't wait to see you next week. Thank you, Spen, for joining us again for another special episode of Meta Money on Saturday morning. Thank you.